Welcome back guys to another episode of Football Gossip, and in today's video we'll be looking at the overrated and underrated players of the Premier League. So here we have the categories. We have Gerrard levels. Now, Gerrard levels for me is, you're very overrated. He was overrated for me and he always will be. Slightly overrated, which is you're fairly portrayed by the media and fans. Slightly underrated, and then Jean Long Boom Song, who we won't talk too much about, shall we now? Let's just say if you put there, people don't know you. So to begin with, we have Kepa. Now, he's had a very disappointing year, let's be honest. He's been replaced by a 38-year-old, 37-year-old Caballero, and especially for a £70 million player, he just doesn't cut it. And if Chelsea want to go further, they've got to make a change. Next up, we've got Firmino, and this was a close one. This one was between slightly overrated and Gerrard levels. But for me, he is very overrated, highly overrated. If you're going to play as a striker, you need to score goals, and he's only scored 8 from 27 games this year. Some people say he plays more as a 10, but you're not a striker then, are you? Next up, we have Dean Henderson. Now, the 23-year-old has been on fire this year. 10 clean sheets from 27 games. He's still got time to develop as well, and in my opinion, he's got to be the number one for the Euros for England once that gets put back underway. But no, he's still got time to develop. The £30 million price tag on his name, I think, is very fair. And if he does get that chance at the Euros, hopefully he'll take it, because I can't stand another year of Pickford. Next up, we have Vicente Guaita. Now, he is similar in the statistic ways with Dean Henderson. 9 clean sheets from 27 games, but the age-wise, he's 33, coming towards the end of his career. But again, I think he is slightly underrated. He could be playing a bit higher up in the league, maybe at someone like Wolves. But no, he's a good player, and for the price that they paid for him, I think he's worth every penny and more of that. As he comes towards the end of his career, he'll probably look for a move abroad, but I hope he does stay at Crystal Palace until he retires, and, well, we'll see how his career goes. So we'll skip Jordan Pickford, because we all know why he's overrated. Next up, we've got Maguire. I forgot what his name was. Harry Maguire. Now, the most expensive centre-back in the world. In my opinion, yes, that was very highly overrated by Manchester United, but they've managed to bring him down to earth. I think fans have recognised that he is a good centre-back, but yeah, he's definitely a little bit overrated. It was a tight one, but I've put him on right. Next up, we have slightly underrated player Kevin De Bruyne. Now, by Manchester City fans, I think he would be but just generally by the Premier League, I think he is slightly underrated. A lot of pundits do rate him highly, but in my opinion, he should be, top 10 for the Ballon d'Or. Then we have Mesut Ozil. Now, for a player that showed so many signs of greatness back in the early days for Arsenal and with Real Madrid, he's really fell off a knife edge. He wasn't in favour with Unai Emery, neither with Ljungberg. He's kind of come back into the scene with Arteta, but for me, he's just way too overrated, especially by Arsenal fans. Next up, we got Aaron Moy. Now, he's on loan from Huddersfield, who are a championship side, but even last season in the absolutely horrific team, I feel like he was one of the saving graces alongside Kyle and Grant. He's played well this year for them, for Brighton. I think he scored 3 goals and assisted 4 or 5, so he's doing well. And the Australian's looking good. Next up, we have our second Crystal Palace player of the day, and it's Van Aanholt. Now, I believe he used to play for Manchester United, but didn't get much game time. And now the Dutchman has come over to Crystal Palace, and he's done well. In my opinion, I do think he's slightly underrated. I believe he's 29-30, so coming towards the end of his career, like Guaita, but hopefully he has a good future. And next up we have Tyrone Mings, another player that I was close to putting in slightly overrated, a bit like Maguire, but eventually I did put him in high. He has got his England call up. He isn't playing bad in a struggling Aston Villa side. You know, he's kind of your average player, which I guess is why I put him in high. If there was a mid-tier section, I would put him in there, but unfortunately it's going to be high. Fortunately for him. Next up, we have Martinelli. Now, this is a two-way thing, because he's seen as the saving grace from Arsenal fans. Him, Saka, Nelson, Willock, and even Maitland-Niles and Smith-Rowe are seen as the next future generation. But by the rest of the league, I feel like he's seen as way too inconsistent, which isn't true. He plays very well in the Europa League when they were in it, and until the Premier League got stopped, he was doing very well as a backup player. Next up, we have Martin Dubravka, and it's another slightly underrated player. That's 5 now so far, so very popular category. But no, Martin Dubravka as a goalkeeper is very good. Another player that's playing in a okay team, a bit like Gaeta, and managing to get a good job done. I believe he's quite a bit younger, he's 27. So we've got 3 players at 3 different stages in the career. You've got one that's still growing, one that's aging out, and then one that's in his prime. But no, Dubravka, solid goalkeeper and doing well. Next up, we have Jack Grealish now, another Aston Villa player put into this, and it's a tough one because I do think he has a lot of ability, but when you hear some of the reports of 60, 70, 80 million pounds even, bids or supposed transfer targets from the likes of Manchester United, I do think you kind of see him as a bit overrated. But no, a good player, has a shot in the Euros, but for me, overrated. Next up, we have another Gerrard levels player, Gabriel Jesus. Now, it's another tough one. Man City see him as a great player, but in my opinion, he's overrated. People say that he's like one of the future stars, but I don't think you can be a future star if you don't finish your chances as a striker. He has a terrible scoring record compared to his chances. I think it's 1 in every 4 or 5 chances that he gets, he scores. And you see that a lot in the Champions League and the Premier League. He misses so many one-on-ones and good chances. So, Next up is Jordan Henderson, and I think he is a very underrated player. The job that he does in that midfield for Liverpool is brilliant and kind of unseen. With Fabinho coming in, Wijnaldum, and even the likes of Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain doing good jobs, either defensively or attackingly, he's kind of seen as a mismatched player and not a bit part player. Inconsistent, but bit part by a lot of people. Next up is Wilfried Zaha, and I put him in slightly overrated because of the price tag again. A bit like Jack Grealish, 70-80 million was said about in the summer. So, yeah, he's a bit overrated. Definitely a good player, no doubts about that. Could be playing at a higher level, should be. But no, a Europa League player, not a Champions League player, not £80 million by any means. Definitely not that amount for me. And that is the final standing table. Firmino and Ozil and Jesus in Gerrard levels. Kepa, Pickford, Grealish and Zaha in slightly overrated. Maguire and Mings in I. Henderson, Gaeta, De Bruyne, Dubravka and Van Aanholt in slightly underrated. And in John Long Boomsong, we have Moyes and Martinelli and Henderson. Do take these lightheartedly. This is my opinion. Some of them you might not agree with, some of them you might. But do take this with a pinch of salt. These are not official. These are my opinions. And tell me your opinions in the comments below. And I'll see you later, I guess. Maybe we'll see you in another video. Remember to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed. And I'll see you on Wednesday.